YouTube open, you might see it running
We
a
are
bit
live.
behind.
We are live.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you everybody for joining. I think you can see the speaker list with everyone on screen right now. We're just going to start in another 30 seconds to 1 minute. We're all very excited for today. We've got a great lineup of speakers and lots of guests joining in. So hopefully we have a great hour and a half long meeting, this very important topic here today. And I think it's time to kick off properly. So Rizwan, I think you can start to do the single speaker now, and I'll start the meeting. So again, hello and welcome everyone to today's free webinar on community cohesion and resilience in the face of COVID-19, organized by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association of Ireland. My name is Mahmoud Mirza and I will be the moderator for this afternoon. We'd love to hear from you, so please type in your comments or questions through the YouTube chat box. We have a great lineup of 6 speakers from a variety of backgrounds and communities to speak about staying resilient during this difficult time. The speakers include Minister of State Frank Feehan, Deputy Mairead Farrell, TD for Galway West, Paula Hillman, Assistant Commissioner of An Garda Síochána, Dr. Claire Hayes, Consultant Clinical Psychologist, Dr. James Carr, Sociology Lecturer at the University of Limerick, and Imam Ibrahim Noonan, a theologian in both Islam and Christianity. So let's get started right away. It's a tradition for events hosted by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association to begin with a recitation from the Holy Book of Islam, the Holy Quran. The recitation is in Arabic, the official language of the Holy Quran, and often recited with a melody. It will also be followed by the English and Irish translations. I'm pleased to welcome to the Zoom stage Rizwan Ahmed to recite a few verses. Rizwan?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. The verses which have been recited before you were taken from chapter 2 of the Holy Quran, verses 156 to 158. The English translation is as follows. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, ever merciful. And we will try you with something of fear and hunger, and loss of wealth and lives and fruits. But give glad tidings to the patient, who, when a misfortune overtakes them, say, surely to Allah we belong, and to Him shall we return. It is these on whom are blessings from their Lord and mercy, and it is these who are rightly guided. Agus anish, lefig me an tashurkan in Welga. In anam Allah an teata grasdul trokrach. Agus Jane femid iracht oriv le fatias agus akras. Agus kalunt rachmas, agus kalunt nimahi, agus terhi. ach tuair scéile áthas de daoine foinneacha. Iad siúda nó Harlíonn miádóibh, deir siad, cinnte go bhanamuid le Allah agus filimid air. Is iad na daoine seo bhfuil beanachtaí ó na díorna agus trócara, agus is iad na daoine seo a threó rítear I gceart. Gur míle maith agad.
Thanks, Rizwan. Rizwan, can you pin me? There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Rizwan, for the beautiful recitation and the translations. Before we invite the speakers, I'd like to ask the organizers of the event for their welcome and brief background of the community. To begin, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Muhammad Anwar Malik. He is a consultant anesthesiologist at Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital, Drogheda. He's well published with a number of peer-reviewed articles. He's a fellow of the College of Anaesthetists Ireland and College of Physicians and Surgeons in Pakistan. He has been at the front line working in the intensive care unit since the pandemic started. For the past 9 years, he has been serving as the national president of the Irish Ahmadiyya Muslim community with 5 local branches throughout Ireland. Anwar moved from Pakistan in his late 20s and has been in Ireland since then. He's married for 20 years with 4 children. Welcome to the Zoom stage, Anwar.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Almighty Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Respected guests, may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon you all. On the behalf of our entire community, I welcome you all to this live webinar on a topic we are all familiar with and close to my own heart. I am particularly grateful to the distinguished speakers who have kindly accepted our invitation and will be sharing their expertise for the benefit of those watching today. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Ireland has been hosting regular community-based events in the form of peace symposia, interfaith conferences, charity walks, and other programs for the past 15 years or more. They have been well attended by people from all walks of life. During this difficult COVID period, we have also done our best to support our community and all those around us. In keeping with this, we have arranged this special live webinar with the theme Community Cohesion and Resilience in the Face of COVID-19. A special thank you to many volunteers that work very hard with the passion and dedication to make this event possible. I hope you enjoy the talks by the speakers from various community backgrounds, and I sincerely hope you hear something of value to you that will help you in this difficult time period we are all facing together. Thank you for watching. At this time, I would like to welcome Maulana Ataur Rahman Khalid, who is missionary of Ahmadiyya Muslim community based in Dublin, to give a short presentation to introduce our community. Mr. Khalid.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, ever most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. It's a great honor and privilege for me to be able to have this opportunity to introduce the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association in the form of this short presentation. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Association was founded in 1889 in India. It spans over 206 countries and has membership exceeding tens of millions. Its current headquarters is in the United Kingdom, where the current worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association resides. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, peace be upon him, is the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, who was born in 1835, and he founded the community in 1889. He claimed to be the awaited Imam Mahdi and the metaphorical second coming of Jesus, peace be upon him. And as we find mention of the advent of a reformer in various world religions, he claimed to be that reformer. He said his objective was to re-establish the lost relationship between man and God. He came to revive the true and peaceful teaching of Islam. He taught that in this day and age, there was no longer the need for the jihad of the sword, which is of self-defense, which we saw in the early period of Islam, as circumstances no longer existed. And the jihad of this age, of this time, is the jihad of the pen, of dialogue and speech. He himself penned over 80 books to highlight the peaceful teaching of Islam. And after his demise, from his right, you can see his successors going clockwise. So currently we have the fifth caliph. So a system of successorship continues his work, just as there were caliphs after the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, the founder of Islam. And the current head you see in the last image on the left, who was elected to office in 2003 until present, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad. May God aid him in his work. So His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, he's been leading a campaign of peace around the world. He's visited various parliaments around the world, addressing world leaders and people of influence. And he has highlighted, based on the Holy Quran, the need for establishing absolute justice at every level of society. And he warned that if we were not to do so, then we were on the brink of a World War III. And he has been giving this warning since 2013. And now other people are also kind of warning us. For example, the defense chief of the British Armed Forces, in recent days, he mentioned that there is a real risk of World War III. He mentions that the reason for these problems we see around the world is the fact that people have moved away from their creator, God Almighty. In the COVID era, he has written many letters to world leaders, reminding them of their responsibilities. He's visited Ireland on 2 occasions. His last visit was in 2014 when he came to inaugurate the Mariam Mosque in Galway. And he visited the Leinster House in Dublin, where he met the TDs as well as senators. And he had the opportunity to introduce his message and answer questions on Islam. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Association has built over 16,000 mosques worldwide, over 500 schools, over 30 hospitals. And the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association seeks to make Islam accessible so that people can see the true and peaceful teaching of Islam. And as such, it has been translating the Holy Quran. And till now, we have translated the Holy Quran into over 70 languages. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Association has its own TV channel, MTA International. It is broadcast over 8 different international channels, broadcasting in a number of languages. It is funded entirely by the voluntary donations of its members. It has studios around the world. It can be watched on Sky Digital on the channel 731, and you can live stream it via this web link, mta.tv. This is the website of the Ahmadiyya, the central website of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, alislam.org. And this is hosts a library of extensive literature of the community and other information. Humanity First is the international charitable trust, independent charitable trust of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association, which serves in 75 countries over 6 continents. It is run by volunteers, including doctors, engineers, architects, educational and technical staff. 93% of its donations go straight to the projects. The main areas which are covered are human development, disaster relief, and long-term projects. As I mentioned, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association has tens of millions of followers around the world. It's established in 206 countries. The Irish chapter, although it was officially registered in 1992, but it dates back to 1928 when the first Irish convert joined the community, Miss Catherine Duns. In Ireland, we have two main centres, the Galway Mosque, Mariam Mosque, and in Dublin, the Batul Ahad Mission House. And our missionary in charge is Imam Ibrahim Ahmad Noonan, who will be later addressing us. The community holds lots of peace programs, other events, outreach events in order to promote the values of love, peace, equality, and tolerance. Here you see the 13th annual Peace Symposium held in Dublin in Glenroyal Hotel on the topic of the need to promote tolerance in today's multicultural world. We hold many other such programs to dismiss misconceptions about Islam and to promote mutual respect. Here you see the youth of our community. In AMA, we have the auxiliary organization for our youth aged between 15 and 40. They have lots of activities to promote their education and well-being, and importantly, service to the local community. We seek to make them productive members of the local society, and so that they live by the words of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that the love of one's country is a part of one's faith. So they take part in lots of humanitarian work. Whenever there's any need anywhere, they're the first to answer that call. We see here an image of the youth going out to help in areas where there were floods. We see youth helping the homeless. Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association has organized various blood drives and continues to do this based on circumstances. Since 2015, the youth organization has held 5 charity walks annually and has raised in excess of 50,000 euros with the collective help of the Women's Auxiliary Organization within the community, of which 8,000 euros was raised by the women and through other such charitable events. The youth have also been writing during this COVID period. They've been writing to their neighbors, offering their help with shopping and other things for those in isolation. They've distributed hand sanitizers to the local community members. The Women's Auxiliary has been holding their educational and religious programs. They hold them regularly. They hold their own independent outreach programs. And in the current COVID period, all these activities of the community have shifted online as much as possible. So they've been arranging virtual meetups, education and training classes where they've been teaching skills. They've participated in community welfare programs. And recently they've celebrated the National Health Week. They've held talks in relation to mental health and well-being, highlighting physical exercise, good eating, healthy eating tips, etc. The Women's Auxiliary has also been active in delivering gift hampers to care homes, schools, local groups, and organizations to spread love and positivity and to appreciate the frontline workers. So they've been doing their little bit. They've even stitched, hand-stitched face masks and included them as part of these hampers, gift hampers. So they've received lots of positive response from staff and these organizations. Similarly, the Elders Association, the males aged 40 and above, their auxiliary has also been active, especially as the weather is getting colder. And they've been going out into the Dublin city to provide various food, toiletry, and clothing items to local charities, homeless charities, and have been offering and volunteering their time. Over 16 visits have been made in recent weeks, and each time helping around 50 individuals. The community has daily and weekly programs happening online, as you can see here. Ever since we've entered into this COVID era. And at the same time, we've been holding these online forums to update the members on government guidelines in relation to COVID, lockdown status, and how it's impacting our programs of the community. And at the same time, we've been providing this support to all our community members to help address issues of mental health and all the other issues associated with COVID. And the community in Ireland continues to adhere to all the government guidelines to help tackle the spread of COVID-19. And God willing, we'll continue to work with you all right till the end so that we come out stronger. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dr. Malik and Mr. Khalid for the welcome and background of the community. Great to see the volunteer work happening, particularly during this COVID period. For those just joining us to this webinar on community cohesion and resilience in the face of COVID-19, you can see on the YouTube, there's a chat box. Please leave your comments. We're hoping to hear from everybody today. We've got a great lineup from various communities, including representatives from our government, from Angarda Shikana, experts in the field of psychology, sociology, and spirituality. And I believe we've got more than a couple hundred viewers now online on YouTube. So at this point, I'd like to welcome our first speaker on the agenda, Minister of State Frank Feehan. Deputy Feehan was appointed as Minister of State at the Department of Health with responsibility for public health, well-being, and national drug strategy in July this year. He was elected as a TD for Sligo Leitrim in the 2020 general elections. Prior to that, Frankie served as a senator at the 25th Seanad, having been nominated by An Taoiseach Enda Kenny in 2016. Frank is also a member of the Oireachtas Committee on Transport, Tourism and Sport. A native of Boyle in North Roscommon, Frank was first elected to the Dáil in the 2007 general election. He was elected chair of the Committee on the Implementation of the Good Friday Agreement on July 2014. He was elected as Fine Gael's front bench spokesperson on community, equality, and Gaeltacht affairs in July 2010. Frank was first elected to Roscommon County Council in 1999 for the Boyle electoral area. Frank lived in both Australia and in the States in the 1980s. He is married and has strong family and community support and blessed with 2 beautiful young children. With that, I ask you to give your full attention to Frank and help me in welcoming him to the Zoom stage. Frank?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to address you all today. The theme you have chosen for today's webinar is one of great concern for myself and my colleagues in government recently. As a result, I'm very happy to be able to talk to you all about what we are doing to help strengthen community cohesion and resilience in the face of COVID-19. In my role as Minister of Public Health, Wellbeing and National Drug Strategy, I am responsible for progressing the work of the Healthy Ireland Framework, our national strategy for improving the overall health of our population. The framework was launched in 2014 in order to address what were then the biggest threats to our nation's health and well-being, such as smoking, alcohol misuse, obesity, and low levels of physical activity. Good progress has been made in tackling all of these issues since the publication of the framework, and little know then, however, what an enormous and unexpected health challenge we would be facing in 2020. The arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic to our shores has given a new urgency to the Healthy Ireland message of minding our well-being. And as we prepare to face the difficult winter ahead, it is now more important than ever to ensure that we eat healthily, be as active as possible, and mind our mental well-being. The last months have been very difficult and painful for us as we have learned to live with COVID-19. This difficult journey is set to continue as we face into the coming months. But I want to be clear, we will get through this if we take it one day at a time. Each day is progress, and each day is another day closer to normality. Many people have concerns regarding their own health and well-being and of their loved ones during this time. The protected nature of the stresses experienced by most of us has had a huge impact on our collective health and well-being, and our health services have had to act accordingly. Fortunately, in these recent years, we've been engaged in reforms of our health service, which has enabled us to meet these challenges effectively. 2017 saw the launch of a major new development in the Irish healthcare system, the report of an Oireachtas committee recommending a new model of healthcare to be called Sláintecare. This was a new vision for a universal single-tier health and social care system where everyone has equitable access to services based on need. A key element of Sláintecare is the importance of keeping people well at home. Helping people and communities to mind their own health and to keep well is central to Sláintecare and is delivered through Healthy Ireland. Since 2018, we have been promoting a national communications campaign in order to highlight the key messages of Healthy Ireland around eating well, being physically active, and minding our well-being. In the initial phase of the pandemic, we adopted a wider cross-government well-being campaign, In This Together, which promoted resources and initiatives from across government to support health and well-being in the context of the necessary COVID-19 restrictions. These reports are now being refreshed and renewed and will continue over the months ahead to support us all in maintaining our individual and collective well-being. Recently, I was pleased to be able to take part in the launch of our new national campaign, Keep Well, which aims to support our citizens through the difficult winter months ahead. Significant funds are being invested in this campaign, with 7 million to support the delivery of a range of initiatives and support services, which we rolled out over the coming months. The campaign will encourage us all to do something that is good for us each day or week, like going for a walk, connecting safely with friends or family, engaging in a hobby, or reaching out for the supports that we may need. By doing so, we will create balance, routine, and resilience. The campaign is focused on 5 themes. These are keeping active and being outdoors, even during the winter. Physical activity can be really helpful in improving mood and reducing anxiety, in addition to keep us all fit and healthy. Sport Ireland is leading a series of initiatives that will support us to keep active and to exercise within our own local areas throughout the winter. In addition, sporting organisations and clubs will be invited to develop ways to support local communities. Staying connected with people as addressing isolation, supporting volunteerism, and initiatives that support person-to-person connection is important to our well-being. Early in the year, we launched a community call service, which aims to support supports to the vulnerable groups. This is being expanded with local authorities provided to support a local community helpline and befriending service. Working with partner organisations, including An Garda Síochána, NGOs and Volunteer Ireland, there will be a particular emphasis on identifying and supporting those most at risk of isolation. Switching off and being creative or learning something new, getting back to nature and finding ways to relax can also really be beneficial for general well-being. And local authorities and libraries, with advice from Creative Ireland and working with partners at national and local level, will provide a range of initiatives to support individual and community creativity in the arts, crafting, culture, and heritage. Eating well by nourishing our bodies and minds, we can develop a better connection between the food we eat and how we feel, and positively impact our physical and mental well-being. And Board Bia will provide information and resources to support healthy eating this winter. In early 2021, a major initiative will commence to support more people to grow their own food, which will help to forge greater connections between community networks. And finally, minding your mood. Under this theme, people will be equipped with information on where to go if they need support. They will also be linked with the local community helpline to ensure that people can access the need they need. The HSE recently launched a series of Minding Your Wellbeing online videos, which provides an opportunity for people to learn more about key elements of mental well-being, such as mindfulness, gratitude, self-care, and resilience. I have no doubts that today's webinar will provide a great opportunity to discuss our need for connection, to feel a sense of belonging and purpose, and our desire to end isolation at work, at home, and across our lives. And I'm certain also that both individually and together, we as a nation can face these challenges together. Again, thank you for your time, and I want to wish you all the very best with your event today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Feehan, for your insights today, the positive messages, the range of initiatives and programs like Healthy Ireland, Keep Well, Sports Island, Minding Your Well-Being. All these resources are surely going to help us step by step coming back to normality. So our next speaker is also a member of the Dáil Éireann, Deputy Mairead Farrell. Mairead Farrell is a Sinn Féin TD for the Galway West South Mayo area. From Merview, Mairead has been active in local campaigns, organizations, and clubs in Galway her whole life, including being an active member of St. James GAA Club. With a BA in Economics and History and a Master's of Finance, she has worked in the financial services industry for the past number of years. Mairead also worked as Galway City Councillor from 2014 to 2019. Deputy Farrell has been a longtime friend of the Ahmadiyya community in Galway City. Please help me in welcoming her to the Zoom stage. Mairead?
Gurmila Mahad, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great. Gurmila Mahad for the lovely introduction. Agus Gurmila Mila Mahagi as an gura teachtan seo chun labhairt lí benacht agus ar nui chun éisteacht freisin. I just want to thank you so much for the invite this evening, and not only to speak, but of course to listen. And I'm really looking forward to hearing the different panelists and their contributions this evening. And it was an absolutely beautiful opening to hear, I suppose, the background and a lot of the work that is being done. And I think the last number of months have really shown us that solidarity is absolutely key, and that solidarity is what holds us together as a community. And I think, I suppose I'm from Merview in Galway, as you mentioned, and Merview is very, very close to the Mariam Mosque. And I think that the Ahmadiyyan community really are a shining example of the kind of solidarity that we need, and that has really brought us through what we're experiencing at the moment with COVID-19 and the restrictions that are in place as a result. And one thing, I suppose, I've known the Ahmadiyyan community for a number of years now, and the great work that they do, that you do in Galway. And it's not just among yourselves. I mean, I think that the Ahmadiyyan community have been fantastic in outreaching to other people in the community, and that's something that I've really noticed in the years that I've known you. And you're so much a fabric of the society here in Galway. And I know that the huge work that you do with the Duishka community in particular, but not only that, I think you really stand with those of other faiths and none, and really live in that mantra that we heard earlier, that mantra of loving mankind, and that the love of one's country is part of one's faith. And it's something that I've really noticed over the years, especially with the youth organization and the fantastic energy that they have and the work that they do. And there really is that sense of community. And I always feel very much at home when I am in the Miriam Mosque in Ballybrit. And it's been fantastic over the years seeing how you've brought the whole community together in a physical sense in your mosque. And I think it's really fantastic to see that you're now doing that as well here in a virtual sense, and that it's open to everyone on YouTube is really, really good, because it just means that everyone can benefit from this. And I know that over the years, I suppose even we've had, you know, some of our ministers from the north coming in and meeting with Imam Noonan to really hear the real life experiences of what is happening in Galway. Now, I think the minister really outlined that COVID has been a very, very difficult year for us. And I think it's been difficult for us all in different ways. I suppose it's been very difficult for us all with the reality that we haven't been able to see our families, we haven't been able to see our friends, and that lack of human contact, of course, has a huge impact on us all. And then we've all had, I suppose, major life events happening throughout COVID, and we've lost people, and it's been difficult with funerals and all that. And I'm sure it's been very difficult for the Ahmadiyyan community, especially in the sense of not being able to congregate in the usual manner, but it is good to see that you've been availing of that technology, and we have seen, I suppose, that rise in people suffering, and we all have, like, of isolation and anxiety and worry, but I do think that the reality is that COVID has harmed us in terms of, you know, being our level of happiness and all that, and it gets more difficult as the time gets darker. I suppose it's getting darker earlier, and it really does show that we need to check on our own mental health and that of our family and our friends and our neighbours. And I think this is something that your youth group has been very actively involved in here in Galway in particular, but it really is something that we need to do as a community. And there's a phrase in Irish, and it says "Er ska a chéile a waran na dina," and it means that we live in each other's shadow, and that the concept is that we as people, that we depend on each other to survive, to enjoy life, and to thrive. And we see it in our daily lives. I mean, what motivates us to get up, to go out of bed in the morning, to go to work, to play sport, you know, to watch sports together, and that it's really pivotal in everything that we do. And of course, now that human interaction has, of course, it has, I suppose, shrunk the amount of interactions that we've been able to do. But we have been very lucky that we've had this, I suppose, virtual way of coming together, that we've had that ability to use technology to come together. But there has also been positives, I think, in the fact that, you know, we've had restrictions, and it's made us, I suppose, really look at our own communities and really depend on each other more as a community, and get to know each other as a community as well, which I think has really progressed in the last number of months. And I know the Ahmadiyyan community have always been very strong at reaching out to the neighbours, and that being, you know, me living in a neighbouring estate. But I do think that we've really had a chance now to slow down a bit, and we've discovered, I suppose, especially our 5 kilometre radius now, that we mightn't have really been as aware of. And I think for the first time, people have really looked at their immediate surroundings and seen the joy and the beauty in it. And I would take myself as an example of that as well. And I think we've gained a better understanding and respect for the environment in which we live. And as I said, I live in Merview, which is an estate which is near the Miriam Mosque, and I used to live around the corner from where I live now. But yesterday evening, the street that I was born into, McBride Avenue in Merview, they lit lights. They lit Christmas lights along the street for the first time ever, and it's the estate that I live in is quite an aging, has quite an aging population, but there's younger families coming in. And it was interesting to see that the person who now lives in the house that I was born into, he organised the putting up of the lights and getting the lights switched on and all that kind of thing. And he said that he'd lived there for 12 years, but that now during this time was the first time that he actually got to know his neighbours properly. And they set up a WhatsApp group and they kept in touch and they organised putting up the lights, which was of course lovely, especially for those, I suppose, who live alone, because it's been a particularly trying time to know that you have your neighbours. And I think that's something that we can all kind of learn from, but I definitely think that it's something that we've all seen happen in our own communities. And I think that we all need to remember that that we have that community, then we have that neighborly support, and that's obviously been that's so important. And the restrictions have been difficult for us all, but obviously public health advice really needs to be paramount when dealing with this pandemic. And I do think that we will get through this time, of course, and I think that we will look at this time of trial as something that we came through together as a community and as a people. And I think even the fact that I suppose we all did our staycations rather than, you know, looking at our own surroundings again in a different light was very, very good. But I don't want to keep you too long, but I want to just finish off with a poem that I think really sums up that love for our own community. And it's by a poet, Liam O'Flaherty from Galway, from Inishmore, the Aran Islands. And I'll read it in Irish and then I'll read it in English, but it's called Na Blaha Crega. A dúirt mé leis na blatha nach suúrach an áit a bhuairsibh le bheith Jane Véir, chanta súsan seo le bruch na hala, gan fúbach an chloch glas, agus salachar na nain, áit radach, lán le cio, agus farige cháte. Ní scarch an Greenland seo, ó lún go saharn, le glinde a chur uri. A dúirt na blatha crega, is cum a linnastór, táid fú riocht I ceol na farige. So in English, the rock flowers. And I said to the flowers, isn't it a pitiful place ye ended up, to be having fun, and ye trapped on the side of a cliff, nothing below but grey rock, and the filth of the birds, a dirty foggy place of spraying sea. The sun doesn't shine here from Monday to Saturday to gladden your hearts. And they said, we don't care, dear, we are entranced by the music of the sea. And I think it's a lovely way to end it, as something of really the fact that I suppose in the last few months we've really come to see the beauty of our own surroundings and how important our surroundings are for ourselves. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to hearing the other speakers.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mairead Farrell, for your insights today, your acknowledgement for the community, and it's and a beautiful poem at the end. It's a really relevant highlight to look, to enjoy the community around us and support it as much as possible. Thank you for that. Just for those who are joining us now, welcome to the program. It's a great lineup of speakers that we have today. We have 4 more speakers today. And the YouTube shows more than 200 or so attendees that have joined. So welcome all of you. Next on the speakers, we have Paula Hillman, a very special guest from An Garda Síochána. Assistant Commissioner Hillman had 34 years of policing experience with Police Services of Northern Ireland, the PSNI, before joining An Garda Síochána in May 2020. As Assistant Garda Commissioner of Roads, Policing and Community Engagement, she has responsibility for the National Roads Policing Bureau, the National Youth Diversion Bureau, National Community Engagement Bureau, Public Order and Major Events Policy. Previously, as Detective Chief Superintendent, Paula was in charge of PSNI's Public Protection Branch. The branch was responsible for proactive and reactive specialist and serious investigation in relation to adult and child vulnerability and abuse. Paula was chair of the Strategic Management Board, which oversees public protection arrangements of Northern Ireland. She was also the PSNI strategic lead for the integration of Syrian refugees into Northern Ireland. Paula is a strategic firearm commander and gold public order commander with extensive experience operational policing in Northern Ireland. In 2013, Paula was awarded an MBE for the services to policing and the community. It's a great pleasure to have you, Paula. Please give your full attention to Paula and help me in welcoming her to the Zoom stage. Paula? Paula, you'll have to,
Yep.
I think it's on mute. There we go.
Yes, I'm on mute now. Yes, I was aware I wasn't
Thank you.
unmuted. Thank you so much. Thank you for that very warm welcome, and thank you for the invitation to An Garda Síochána to speak today. I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of Commissioner Harris, who sends his best wishes to all of you. And it's been very interesting hearing what has been said so far, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the event today. I'm going to talk a bit then about ourselves and An Garda Síochána and what we've been doing in terms of the community cohesion and resilience in these unprecedented times. Our mission in An Garda Síochána is to keep people safe. And the role of community policing has been central to community cohesion and resilience in helping society live with the impact of COVID-19. During the various levels of lockdown, the importance of a Garda service and the contribution of community policing have been a vital element in community resilience. As an organisation, and I know I'm new, 7 months now in An Garda Síochána, but it has been really evident to me in my time here, and I have seen firsthand that the long established tradition of how An Garda Síochána fosters and develops close relationships within the communities that we serve. The trust and integrity which has been built up between ourselves and An Garda Síochána and the public is largely due to our proactive engagement programs and initiatives. And these partnerships and initiatives and this engagement has proven to be even more of a lifeline today and to the communities that we serve during the pandemic. We have continued and we've increased our engagement and our partnership to enhance our service delivery. This included increased engagement with older and vulnerable groups, with victims of crime, especially victims of domestic violence, and our programme to support domestic violence has been well documented and publicised of what we're doing to support those victims. With diverse groups, including yourselves, with business communities and state bodies and NGOs. Minister Feehan did reference the community call helpline, and we have ensured that in the 31 local fora that we are represented, our local community Gardaí are represented, and we have played our part in ensuring that we provide the services and help coming out from the request for help through those fora. We have, and again, in policing times, these are unprecedented. So while we have maintained our traditional role of policing in detecting and preventing crime, of keeping our roads safe, we've also then went into the space of ensuring that we play our part in working with the public to comply with the health regulations that are now in place, but also the vulnerability and the service we are supplying to those who are vulnerable. And through, again, calls to An Garda Síochána ourselves and through the community call helplines, we have played our part in delivering groceries and prescriptions. Welfare checks are conducted on vulnerable members of the public, transport to and from doctor's appointments, and assisting with a wide range of tasks from household maintenance to dogging. Kildare Division, their community policing unit arranged for a vehicle to be specially adapted to ensure a sterile passenger space. And then we used that vehicle to take patients to essential clinic appointments. Small things like that, but very big and something that we're proud to play our part in An Garda Síochána. And while we've also, and I've talked about some of the vulnerable groups as well, it is important for our younger people that we have continued to reach out and support them in the work we do. So we reviewed our schools programme and moved our schools programme online to ensure that we were still continuing to engage with young people, but also to deliver those key safety messages, and that work is also ongoing. Our high visibility patrolling then has been utilised widely to reassure our communities. as well as high visible patrols. We have targeted proactive patrols in areas of high footfall, such as transport hubs, local parks and amenities, to ensure that people feel safe and secure in their environment. We carry out public reassurance patrols, and we have, and you've seen the increase in the use of checkpoints when we moved into our level 5 level of restrictions. But what's also very important as a police service and serving the citizens of Ireland is that we've done this in our human rights approach and in a graduated policing response to ensure compliance with the government's temporary restrictions, and our 4-step escalation principles of engaging with the community first, explaining why we're doing what we're doing, encouraging people to comply, and then only moving to enforcement as a very last resort. And that has been the model that we have delivered our policing service through right since the start of the pandemic. Communication as well is something that has been critical for us in terms of providing reassurance. We have maximum use of local press, radio, social media to reassure the public and how they can make contact with ourselves in Garda Síochána. We use local community newsletters to communicate and reassure, and leaflet drops. Maybe just to give you an example of some of the impact of some of that work. In Wicklow, they had reported their divisional Facebook page, which had followers of 5,000, increased to 14,000 over the last few months, with more than 141,000 engagements with their posts. So we recognise that social media is only one tool, and that's why we also do more traditional, use more traditional means as well, of leaflet drops as well. It's a whole combination, but I think that just shows the power of social media and how we can use that to communicate out. And while I've talked about all the work we've been doing, I think there's also one very key element, because to keep the public safe, we need to keep our own people safe. So it's important for us, for our own people, for our Garda members and our Garda staff, that we also support them to enable them to carry out our policing service to you. So we have enhanced our occupational health and welfare support to our people. We looked at our environment, both the physical and working practices, to ensure that we were compliant with regulations, but also how our own people, I talked about how we ensure the public feel safe, how our own Garda members and staff feel safe in coming to work. And part of that, as our senior leadership, was to ensure that we also provided clear instructions and support for them on what our expectations were, and supported them in getting the equipment that they needed to carry out their roles. As I've talked a bit about generally what we've done to work with communities in terms of that resilience, and I think now it's important to look at what we did with your community as well, and some of the work that we did and what we're planning, not just within the operating environment, but going forward as we develop our policing service and work with you. And as during the COVID-19 restrictions, we were especially aware of how social distancing and restricted travel impacted on religious practices. The holy month of Ramadan is a special time for your community, not just for the spiritual obligations, but also for its social function, for the message of harmony and connection with family and community members. In advance of Ramadan, our Garda diversity officers and community Gardaí were asked to reach out to your community in their relevant divisions to offer support and advice. And it is important for me to recognise today and to acknowledge the sacrifice that you made with the introduction of online prayers, and to ensure you were compliant with the regulations relating to social gatherings. And part of the work then we are continuing to do, and I know that we have previously been at your events and we've mentioned these, but and mentioned this work, but it's good for me today to be able to outline how we're finalising the work we are doing in standardising our approach to hate crime across Garda Síochána. The Garda National Diversity and Integration Unit are finalising our online training modules, which will be completed by our members and staff throughout 2021. This will provide our members with the expertise of hate crime recording, investigation and prosecution. Our diversity and culture awareness programme will help our members to understand and interact with our diverse and minority communities in the course of their duties. Addressing challenges such as the impact that prejudice and unconscious bias can have on the service that we deliver. Our leadership module will embed a deep understanding of the dynamics of equality, diversity, and very importantly, inclusion, and how to overcome the challenges we face to inform our future direction. Our community policing kit will be an online resource for our Garda diversity officers and community Gardaí, and this will hold resources and information specific to particular religion and communities. And I know that you have contributed to that toolkit, and I thank you for that. We have also reviewed and updated our uniform policy to ensure that we can reach out and seek representation from across all communities as we go into our future recruitment campaigns next year. And that means that we do and we encourage recruitment and encourage anyone so that we can be representative of the community that we serve to apply for a career in Garda Síochána, either as a member or staff. So that's some of the work that we're also doing, we have been doing, and we will continue to deliver for when we do, hopefully in 2021, come out of the COVID-19 operating environment that we are in. To conclude, I would just like again to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. These are unprecedented times, and I think people have stood up and done unprecedented things. And the work that as a community, that people working together to ensure that those most vulnerable with our communities are safe. T.D. Farrell talked about solidarity, and certainly say I have served in 2 police services across this pandemic, and I can certainly see and I've seen firsthand the solidarity that has come from ourselves and Garda Síochána working with you, the communities and all communities across Ireland. And we will continue to do that as we move into 2021 and deliver that service. And then hopefully, as we maybe by the midst of whenever 2021, we can move into a more space where we can come and visit. I look forward to, when it's safe to do so, to come out to meet you in Galway. And I do look forward to that time. My Inspector Mills, who I know has been working with you up to now, has told me all about your premises. And I do look forward to getting to Galway when it is safe to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula Hillman. You're very welcome to Galway whenever we get into a safe routine. Thanks for your insights today. It's great to hear the massive efforts from Garda Síochána during the pandemic to keep us all safe, particularly on the vulnerable community. At this time, I just want to give a quick shout out to many of our colleagues that have just joined in, either through Zoom or YouTube, have mentioned that they've joined. People like Deputy Emer Higgins, Deputy Joe Flaherty, Councillor and Mayor of South Dublin County Council Ed O'Brien, Councillor Alan Hayes, Councillor Owen O'Brien, Councillor Baby Perry Padden, Councillor Paul Gogarty, Councillor Vanessa Liston, and Councillor Shane Moynihan. Apologies if I missed your name. I'm sure we'll catch him soon, but thank you for all your support and joining today to support this very important webinar. For our next speaker, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Claire Hayes. Dr. Claire Hayes is a consultant clinical psychologist and clinical director of AWARE. She's passionate in the areas of coping, prevention, and resilience. She has developed a clear and logical approach to helping people understand the basic principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, which has become known as the coping triangle. She continues to build on her combined 37 years of training and experience as a clinical psychologist, lecturer, author, and teacher to help individuals, groups, and organizations to understand the particular nature of their stressors and to apply evidence-based psychological principles to help them cope with these. Her work with AWARE is particularly satisfying as she works with dedicated volunteers and staff to support people who are impacted by depression or bipolar disorder. Claire has written widely on how to help people cope with stress and has become a regular contributor to Irish national media, including current affairs television and radio programs and national press. With that, I ask that you give your full attention to Claire and help me in welcoming her to the Zoom stage. Claire?
Thank you very much, Garmaga Galer. It's a huge honor for me to be invited to participate in this webinar. I'm enjoying it hugely and I'm continuing to be on a learning curve. The truth of the more you know, the more you don't know is very evident to me as I sit here and listen to the previous speakers, but also I'm learning about your own community. And I'd like to join with the others in really acknowledging you in introducing us and introducing your webinar through Gaeilge as well. So as we look at community developing resilience, cohesion, I'm one of the millions of people in Ireland who enjoyed and was thrilled by the Late Late Show last night, the Toy Show. And I'm really surprised to be saying that because I've watched it in previous years. I've watched it since I was a child myself, and I've always enjoyed it, but I've never before felt, as I felt last week when Cavan won the Ulster final, a huge sense of community and really pride in being Irish, as I did last night when I watched the Toy Show. The Garda Síochána were represented and people from all of the communities, the new communities in Ireland were represented as well. But mostly the spotlight was on our resilience as individuals, parents' resilience, children's resilience, and I think we have to give it to RTE and Ryan Tubridy in particular, their resilience and his resilience. So over the last number of months, as I've been doing my various work, I've been struck by the gifts of COVID-19. And I think they will only become more apparent as we move on over the next number of years. But one thing that has struck me in my work is initially March, April, the people who have experienced anxiety and depression to a severe extent in the past were actually coping really well. They were saying to me things like, I know what to do. I'm used to staying at home. I know how to manage this. I've experienced anxiety before. And actually, I never really worried about a pandemic. And now it's here, I know how to cope with it. The people who were experiencing difficulties at that time were people who had not had the opportunity to develop resilience over a period of years. Children, teenagers, adults who had life really good to them and for them, who maybe were minded. One person said to me recently, use the word mollycoddled. So for people who were used to getting every single thing they wanted immediately, whenever they wanted it, COVID-19 has been a massive shock. So just because we want to do something does not mean that we are able to do it. And I think each of us as individuals have been struggling with that at some level. And some of us maybe are better able to manage that than others. I was really struck as I listened to your introduction about the similarities in your religion and mine as a Catholic. The core of religion, as I understand it, is love your neighbor as yourself. And the core of my work is helping people look at themselves. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And when we're looking at developing resilience in communities, it can be easy sometimes to miss the individual piece. My work is very much focusing on the individual. And the individuals I meet tend to think that they're not good enough. They tend to blame themselves for not being good enough. And they tend to judge themselves on how they're feeling. And there can be a tendency for all of us to want to feel better, feel better, feel better. So I often ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, on a mood scale, 1 being very low mood, 10 being very high, where ideally would you like to be in that mood scale? And more often than not, people say, well, maybe not 10, but 9. Maybe not 9, 8, definitely 8. Most people, if they're being honest, really would say 10. So then I draw out the graph of the normal curve, the curve of normal distribution. And with height, we have average, people who are average height, people who are a little bit taller, people who are a little bit smaller. Average, high average, low average. And for me, when we come to talk about mood, I see that as applying. Our average mood is really around 4, 5, 6. But if we think we're supposed to be at a 9 or a 10 all the time, then being at 4, 5, 6 isn't okay. And some of us can panic if we're experiencing difficulties. And I've noticed that there can be a huge emphasis on how people are feeling, how any of us are feeling. And again, a panic, I'm using that word deliberately, if people are not feeling okay. So my way of helping people is to just take a few steps back. And I really do love cognitive behavioral therapy and the principles, and they're very simple and they're very practical. And I'd like to share with you the third step of a 3-step process. Well, I suppose when I said that, I better do the first and the second, but the first is to catch what we're thinking, how we're feeling, what we're doing. The second are 4 questions. Do our feelings make sense? People often say to me, no, it doesn't make sense to feel upset and worried and unhappy and sad and miserable. Of course it does. We're human. Also, it makes sense because of what's happening and or what we're thinking and what we believe and what we're doing. The second question is about our thoughts. Are our thoughts helpful or unhelpful? The third is, what do we believe? And a lot of us believe we're not good enough. And the fourth question is, are our actions helpful or unhelpful? And the community and helping in the community is really important, but all of us do something to feel better. Whether it's checking doors, whether it's baking, whether it's looking after other people. And that's great, but the more we do it, if that's the only way that we do it, we can become dependent on that, and it can backfire. So the third step is what I now call the ABC coping sentence. And I'm delighted to be able to share this with you. My passion is in preventing difficulties. So A is acknowledge. So for any of us right now, the 28th of November, 2020, I feel upset, I feel confused, I feel tired, I feel fed up, I feel angry. At the moment, I feel interested actually, but a lot of people might not. And I'm sure there were a lot of children watching the Late Late Toy Show last night who felt jealous and who really wanted to be there. So acknowledging how we feel. I would imagine a lot of parents watching the program last night felt a huge sense of relief that their children were safe and well and didn't experience the difficulties that some of the children who were incredible last night that we saw, that they might have experienced. So I feel overwhelmed. B, because I think this is so hard, because I think everybody else is coping better, because I think it's never going to end. And I deliberately encourage us to put I think in, because we can manage our thoughts. It's not always a thought. If any of us hurt us, we'd feel pain. So it's not always a thought, but a lot of the time it is our thoughts that are causing us the problems, and our beliefs. And people believe, any of us can believe we're not good enough, or there's no end to this. People believe the world was flat. They believe the Titanic would not sink. So whatever we believe does not mean it's true. So A, acknowledge, B, because, and then C, choose. So what are we going to choose to do? So I choose to develop my own resilience. I choose to ask for, get, and take help. And Aware is a fantastic organization for that, and as a lot of the other organizations are too. But I'd like to just mention that Aware have courses that are free to do that are cognitive behavioral therapy based. They're called Life Skills. There's a group course, 6-session course developed by Dr. Chris Williams that is now available on Zoom. And there's also an 8-session online developed by Dr. John Shari and his colleagues in Silver Clouds. They're evidence-based, they're absolutely excellent. Anybody who has mild to severe depression, and I think that could be anybody, any of us, can sign up and do that. So I feel upset because I think this is so difficult, but I choose to enjoy making this time count. And as we come up to Christmas, which a lot of us celebrate, there can be a lot of doom and gloom. There doesn't have to be. We can acknowledge the challenges, we can link it to what we're thinking ourselves, and we can really focus on choosing to make this time count. So gur míle maith agah go léir, and I look forward to the rest of the webinar.
Thank you so much, Claire, for that great talk. The skills that we need for sure during this time period would be great for all of us to get. I like the ABCs there, very nice. I just want to go to in Zoom what's called a gallery view, so you can see kind of everybody on the stage here or in our panel, I suppose you could say. So I think we're at, are we on gallery view? I think we're trying to get there. Okay, there we go. So just great to see everybody that's online in this panel. I appreciate everybody's time and dedication for this webinar. Then next up, just want to announce our next speaker now. We'll move ahead. We've got, I think, over a steady stream of over 200 participants and viewers on the YouTube webinar. So again, big thank you and acknowledgement to all the audience. I hope everyone is gaining some insight today. For the next speaker, I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. James Carr from the University of Limerick. Dr. James Carr lectures in the Department of Sociology, University of Limerick, Ireland. In 2016, he published his first book, Experiences of Islamophobia, Living with Racism in the Neoliberal Era, which focused on anti-Muslim racism in Ireland. He has published research with the Immigrant Council of Ireland, supported by the Open Society Foundations, entitled Islamophobia in Dublin, Experiences and How to Respond. In addition to other scholarly work, James has also authored the European Islamophobia Report Submissions on Ireland for 2015 to 2020, and has been the contributor for the Yearbook for Muslims in Europe for Ireland for the past 4 years. With that, thank you, James, for coming online today. I welcome you to the Zoom stage. James.
Thank you very much, Mahmoud, and hello to everyone and everyone on the panel. I'd like to start by, I want to acknowledge, I guess, really, first of all, the work of everyone who's been working on the front line from within the Muslim communities, Dr. Malik and others, those who are not with us anymore, who lost their lives fighting COVID over the last almost a year now. Members of An Garda Síochána as well, through Assistant Commissioner Hillman's colleagues and the work they've done in very, very trying circumstances, where, you know, the idea of cohesion and everyone buying the same message is something that has not necessarily always been there. What I want to do for the next little while is maybe, you know, when we've been reflecting on this, when I was reflecting on, I guess, the title of this session, this idea of community and cohesion and resilience, a few things came to mind. And the first was really, well, what do we mean when we talk about community here? Who are we talking about in terms of community? Which community? Are we talking about elderly people who've gone through their particularly stressful times? Are we talking about youth? Are we talking about people who are vulnerable with certain medical conditions and so on? Are we talking about community in a sense more around diversity, in terms of diverse communities within Irish society? So essentially I'm getting at is, who is the we that we are talking about when we're talking about community and talking about cohesion? And then what are we talking about when we refer to resilience and cohesion within society? As part of my work, I am the national expert in racism and xenophobia and related intolerance for the contact point for the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights through NUI Galway. And recently I was commissioned during the summertime to write a report just after our first lockdown on the impact of lockdown 1 on members of the traveller community and Roma communities here in Ireland. And, you know, we were all faced with this ideas of, you know, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't go here, we can't go there, we need to wash our hands, 20 seconds, all this sort of thing, use hand sanitizer, wear a mask, and so on. And sure, at a general sense, if we think of a kind of an unnuanced us, that's not a problem really. It's down to personal choice whether you do it or you don't, maybe. and that raises a problem for the rest of us who are trying to maintain the norms that have been advocated in terms of how we fight COVID-19 and protect people around us. But if you look within the traveller community, for example, and again, I want you to think about this in terms of how we consider the we and the community and the us. We see communities that are within the traveller community, for years of structural neglect within the Irish state, we can see that there is a lack of access to sanitation and water, for example, toilets. When we talk of the we, when we're fighting COVID-19 and cohesion and resilience, what about that? We can think of within the traveller community, within men in the traveller community, very high unemployment rates as it is, 80%. How much higher or how bigger will the impact be on the traveller community with the impacts of the first lockdown? So again, do we consider that when we're thinking about the we? Assistant Commissioner Hillman mentioned earlier on, I think, domestic violence absolutely impacted all communities across Irish society. Similarly, within the traveller community, we see the risk and at least potential for increases in domestic violence therein. Schools closing, there was this sort of refrain to, God help us, we have to do the homeschooling. And I'm a dad with 3 kids, and I've absolutely, very, very, very trying. But my kids had Wi-Fi and had digital devices. I could get online and could watch TV and watch a school hub. And my kids, God bless them, and thank God, had access to parents who've gone through the education system to very high degrees of education and who could guide as well and support their kids going through that situation. Within the traveller community, do the kids have access to the devices? Do the kids have access to Wi-Fi? In terms of staying within the traveller community for just 2 more brief minutes, last week, in all the discourse we've heard on the media, we've had this back and forth about the lifting of restrictions for the hospitality sector and the importance of economy and so on. Absolutely, I don't envy anyone in government trying to engage with this and the various demands that are being placed on there. There were reports of violations of the various limits on gatherings at funerals, for example, noted as taking place across Ireland in the context of funerals, and that this was as a problem. Absolutely. And again, I say that very mindful as someone who's lost someone over the course of the summer and experienced bereavement during COVID-19. I absolutely sympathize with people who've lost anyone or anyone who loses anyone at any time. But when members of the traveller community lost people in the first lockdown, the entire traveller community were labelled as, flaunting regulations around COVID-19, and that the traveller community were spreading COVID-19. And very many people within the traveller community experienced racism in their local supermarket, their whatever, under this sort of accusation that traveller community people were spreading COVID-19, which of course was ridiculous. That's one of my questions. All right, when we think about the we think about the we sort of, we're all in this together, we're all pulled together, and everything will be grand, but it's not always that easy when we're thinking about the we. We need to be more nuanced about that. When we speak about the Muslim communities in Ireland, Muslim communities are very, very diverse within Irish society, very, very rich in their diversity, not only in terms of ethno-national backgrounds and cultural traditions, but also in terms of the aspects of Islam that Muslim communities represent within Irish society. We can talk about, or I could talk about, but I won't talk about, the development of Muslim communities within Ireland. We can, from back in the 1950s and before that, I could talk about how Muslim communities in Ireland are incredibly young. I could mention, and I will mention, the fact that if we look at the national average, if you take the population as a whole, less than 1%, 0.7% work within the healthcare system. If you look at Muslim communities in Ireland, it's over 12% of Muslim communities work within the healthcare system, which is huge contribution to what we do or what Muslim communities do in Irish society and contribute to Irish society. But I'm not going to dwell on that. I want to take this and think of this discussion, or even think of if we can look for the silver lining, if any, in COVID-19, in the sense of community and community cohesion, to think of this as a sort of an opportunity to how we think about the we. It hasn't been published yet. It will be published in the next little while. The European Islamophobia report, which is a co-funded report between the European Commission and the Turkish government, as it happens. The contribution for Ireland will be published for 2020, will be published in 2021. In the most current report, what are the data, and it's all evidence-based, obviously, that I've been given from the Irish Network Against Racism Ireland, and also data that I've gathered myself, demonstrates the sort of experiences that Muslim people within Ireland can experience in the form of hostility and discrimination. You know, that I've one quote there from a witness actually who saw a Muslim woman getting on a bus, and she was told to get off the bus, and she was sworn at by a man in his 40s to 50s, and that she wasn't Irish. Other accounts of a young man being assaulted by two men in balaclavas, which are reminiscent of attacks we saw last year in Limerick as two Muslim men on the way to mosque during Ramadan. We see the experiences of discrimination in the workplace. We see graffiti, and we see a tremendous amount by people vying for political office in this state of anti-Muslim vitriol coming through in Irish society, and it's something that really needs to be recognised. And it's good to hear Assistant Commissioner Hillman discuss some of the work of Garda Síochána and how they're engaging with hate crime and challenging that, and it's particularly around the area of the bias that can be held within members of Garda Síochána themselves as well. This is something that my own research has pointed up in the past, and indeed towards Muslim communities and members of the traveller community as well, and indeed down to just the operational stuff around how to record racism and hate crime and incidents and so forth. When we think of this, then, without dwelling too much on the negative, I guess, I want us to think about or use this as an opportunity for recognition of community and what we understand to be community. I want us to think about, when we're thinking about community, the contributions of a whole range of different communities within Irish society to Irish society, whether it's within healthcare, whether it's within businesses, so on, so forth. Irish society is made up by a rich, growing tapestry of diversity, and it's wonderful, and for me it's incredibly encouraging to see the diversity we see within the state now. It's important then that we have a recognition of diversity within the Irish state, but it's also important that we have a recognition that diversity doesn't necessarily mean different in the sense that there is always going to be an essential difference. Whether you're working within the health service, whether you're working outside of the health service, you're a member of Irish society, you're paying your taxes, and so on and so forth, you should be given the level of services, whether it's accessing public services, whether it's by Garda Síochána in healthcare or otherwise, that every citizen should get within Irish society. So that's an incredibly important part. We need to have a recognition, I think, within Muslim communities of a range of communities as well. I'm thinking of Irish society as broad in terms of Muslim communities that we have within Ireland, and it's wonderful. And I think so many commendations have to be given to Ibrahim Noonan and the work that has happened in Galway, the welcoming that's happened in Galway. I know Ibrahim for almost a decade now, and it's always been so warm and so welcoming there in Galway, and it's a tremendous outreach that happens in Galway and also happens in other parts of the country as well. So to sum up for me, when I think about cohesion and community cohesion and resilience, what I think we need to think about is we need to, as I say to my students in university, is to think about community, think about society in a really nuanced way, in a diverse way, to understand the diversity within society and to understand how something like COVID-19 is going to impact upon all of us in a different way, in a way that, you know, there's some of us, and I put myself among them, who are maybe more privileged in society at a particular time, will not how negative or how cruel COVID-19 can be for others. So we need meaningful cohesion. We need cohesion that puts a stop to, you know, we can see connections between groups that are even trying to gather outside the GPO today, who are anti-masking and all this sort of thing, who have very, very close connections with a lot of far-right groups within Irish society. who want to really tear at the sort of cohesion we're hoping for, right? These folks are trying to tear that apart. And I think the way we challenge that sort of thing is by recognizing our diversity. If I can borrow for the European Union, our diversity in the Union as well. Thanks very much for everything, and best of luck for the rest of the seminar, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. James Carr, for your insights today, your acknowledgements. First of all, sorry to hear for the loss you've suffered during COVID, and absolutely my heart goes out to anyone that suffered during this time. Appreciate the nuances you've brought to our attention on the question of we in community. I tell you, if you're doing lectures online, can you send me a link, please? At this time, I just want to send an acknowledgement also to several councillors that have joined us, including Councillor Joanna Tuffy and several others from Fingal County Councils. For our final speaker this evening, I'm very pleased to welcome Ibrahim Noonan. Imam Ibrahim Noonan is the Imam of Galway Mosque and missionary in charge of Ireland and Northern Ireland for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. He has studied and graduated in Christian theology and philosophy and Islamic theology from University of Wales, Trinity, St. David, and from the Dominican Institute of Theology and Philosophy, ITT Dub University. He has studied at London Institute of Islamic Theology and at the Islamic University in Rabwa, Pakistan. He is currently pursuing a PhD with Trinity College Dublin. With that, I ask that you give your full attention to Ibrahim and help me in welcoming him to the Zoom stage. Ibrahim.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. First of all, I'm truly honored and humbled to have sat here and listened to very moving and great addresses from all the speakers. I'm very honored that I'm very proud to see such representatives of our community from both the education to Garda and Síochána and to the medical field, that we have such humble people which have addressed us. And I actually feel insufficient in trying to follow in all that you have said. During listening to everything, I kept changing my position on how I'm going to add to this community cohesion and resilience in the face of COVID-19. I suppose I wanted to come on a positive note on two sides. And secondly, as Dr. Clare mentioned, Paula, sorry, she mentioned about that she was struck by the similarities between the Catholic faith and our own community, the Muslim community. And interestingly, if someone was to ask me to describe myself, well, I have two roles. First, I'm an imam of a community in Ireland. I represent the Ahmadiyya Muslim community of Ireland and Northern Ireland as well. So I'm an imam. But on the other side, I'm an Irishman, born and bred on the island of Ireland. So I see myself, if you can imagine, standing on Penny Bridge in Dublin. I have two hands out, reaching out to both my own Muslim community, the Islamic community, and the Irish community, with the hope and intention to bring them together in actually unity. I often find myself having to explain to my own family members who are all Irish, Irish family, the Irish side of my family, who are all Roman Catholics, and of course the Islamic community. So recently, when I was planning to do this, when I was asked to do this, I was thinking about how the Irish have always had to face some form of crisis. Ireland is no stranger to crisis. Ireland has gone through, to the Great Famine, has gone through occupation, it has gone through civil war, it has gone through 2 world wars, and now we are facing COVID-19. But the one thing about the Irish people has always been that they had resilience through all these moments of their history and beyond, and much more history. The Irish people had somehow united to get on with, to toughen themselves up, to support each other through times of difficulties. And that's a great attribute of the Irish. And why this is important is because when we're discussing the issue of cohesion, then through these difficult times that we're going through right now, and many of the things which James has pointed out, which are so true, and the issue of the we, and the issue of there are culture, there are many dimensions of communities in Ireland now who see themselves as being Irish, including the Muslim communities. Those who've come here, born here, bred here, who have grown up here, who have been educated here, they see themselves as Irish. But there's always that but in the middle, and that is, have we been accepted fully as Irish? And that is something very important, that if we are to get through COVID-19 together as a community, the question, as James mentioned, what do we mean by community? Which community? There are many communities within a community. One of the things that I've always loved about Galway City, and one of the reasons why I chose to stay here, in fact, one of the reasons why I chose to build them up, with the permission of the head of our community, to build that mosque in Galway, was because Galway is known as a city of tribes, and Galway had that atmosphere of a community, of culture, and of clusters of communities. As Maureen mentioned, she's given great support to our community, and indeed many other councillors and members of Parliament also. They have shown us that spirit of community cohesion. On the other side, I would like to mention and demonstrate to us that one of the areas that I often face as an Irishman, and who happens to be a Muslim, who happened to convert to Islam, was always having to prove myself to my own people first, as being, I am Irish, I'm born and bred here. My name actually is Micheál O'Neill, but I'm a Muslim. And at the secondly, my own community members, I have to convince them, reassure them, you are welcome here. The Irish do welcome you, and the Irish do love you. But as James pointed out also in all the reports he's done about Islamophobia, sometimes it's quite difficult to convince some people. As an Irishman that lived in London during the 80s when I was studying, I saw for myself what prejudice and can be like when I often got accused of being a terrorist, a republicanism and stuff like that. And now being a Muslim, I often get the same kind of remarks as well, of being Osama bin Laden, etc., etc. But we are a very peaceful community, and Islam is a very peaceful faith. And that is one of the things that is something that I feel that's really needed, that the Irish people, if we are to work together, if we're to create a cohesion together and develop resilience together, then the Irish people have to understand that the Muslim communities are also, they also desire the need for the Irish to understand that we are there, we are part of the fabric, as Marie mentioned. We are part of that fabric. You heard in the beginning, Dr. Rizwan not only recite the Quran in Arabic and translation, but he also gave the translation in Gaeilge. And that shows the effort that we're doing as a Muslim community. Many of our children are fluent in Gaeilge. As already mentioned, it's already been mentioned that the work that we're doing, our doctors are in the front line. They're putting their life in danger every day to go into the hospitals in the fact that they could contract or get that COVID-19. And for me, they're extremely brave people. We also have care workers. We also have doctors who are dentists who are dealing with this on a daily basis. And they're doing it because they have a passion for their profession. And not only do they have a passion, they love helping people. It's part of the fabric of our faith to help people. It's the teachings of Islam to go out and help people. In fact, the Prophet of Islam has clearly mentioned, and I just quote this to you, when he says, and this will give you the spirit of a Muslim community who love everyone and anyone. They don't see a difference between people. They just see each other as human beings. When the Prophet said, "Look for me among the weak and the infirm, for you are secured and provisioned because of those among you who are weak and helpless." So we as a community, we feel that, and that's why when you see the works of the effort that our youths are doing, going out, knocking on doors, asking people, can we help you? Can we get shopping for you? Or the elder members of our community who go out on the streets as well, giving food. And indeed, as you saw about our ladies, who are very passionate about this, by the way, the ladies are so passionate about going out and helping in the nursing homes. These are all signs of that we are a community who want to be part of a community. We want the people to see that we are part of this, and we want to work hard with you, and we want to develop that resilience with you. The people of Ireland, as I already mentioned, have gone through so much. We have seen the troubles in the north of Ireland. We have seen the great work, and I mean the amazing work of the PSNI. I have to say this in Northern Ireland, and the community effort in Northern Ireland between the different faiths that there. I've seen it for myself, and that is a huge witness of the will of the people of Ireland. But now I think that we're all facing the same COVID-19. We're all humans. We all breathe. We all have the same blood. We all can catch the same COVID-19. And that is the thing that we have to work together. We have to follow the laws of the land. We have to obey the government. We have to obey the Garda Síochána and the police force. We have to do all these things as a community. And in fact, the head of our community, His Holiness Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmed, who's the worldwide spiritual leader, he's consistently advising us and reminding us, our communities throughout the world, to do everything and obey whatever the governments are telling you. Act upon everything. Do your bit. Be part of that drive. Be part of that effort. Be that community who's out there helping each other. Helping not just whether a person is Irish, English, Welsh, African, Asian, Arab, white, black, green, or blue. It doesn't make a difference. When you see that effort, when you see that desire of unity, when we see each other, we don't see each other as different communities. We see each other as one unified community. So I think that's as much as I can. I think it's enough for me to say. Everything else has been said. I'm just very proud of what happened today in seeing the Deputy Commissioner and seeing the members of Parliament, seeing Dr. Paul and then also James and everyone that's come on. That's made me very proud, actually, to be Irish and also to be a part of a Muslim community which is part of this country. We are the fabric of this country, and we can reassure you one thing: we will walk with you, and we will run with you, and we will take on that load, and we will do what we can to get us through, all of us together, through this COVID-19. This is my absolute belief. You will find this, as that beautiful poem, that beautiful Irish poem that Marie mentioned about being the shadow of each other. We are your shadow. We are there. And wherever you see the shadow, we are behind you to help you. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, Imam Ibrahim Noonan, for your final thoughts today. A great message to end on. We are proud for sure, and we are all together for sure in this pandemic, in this COVID-19 battle. It's been a great pleasure to be the moderator today for this entire webinar. I hope everyone that has watched has enjoyed and has taken something out of it. We've had a great attendance. Or I think the peak was something like 223 or something, and a rolling attendance of people that have come in and out. So a great many that have joined us. Appreciate all that have joined. And of course, our great panel today who have taken the time out on a Saturday evening to give us their thoughts on this very important subject. And so without any further ado, we'd just like to end with one final message from the National President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community, Dr. Muhammad Anwar Malik. Anwar?
Am I unmuted? Okay. Thank you. So in the end, I want to thank all the honorable speakers for their time and for wonderful words. May God bless you all for all the great work that you're doing. And many thanks to all the viewers who are watching us. Stay safe, look after the vulnerable members around you. May we stay strong and united, and may this difficult time pass soon. I want to request everyone to join me in a silent prayer. This is our tradition that we end our meeting with the silent prayers. We pray by raising our hands. You may do whichever way you prefer. Please join me in silent prayers. Ameen. Thank you. Thanks again for all the speakers. I understand, I learned that there are a lot of other members have joined on the Zoom as well, because we are already, I think, running over time. Otherwise, we would have given opportunity. But still, actually, I think we have if we have time and if people want to stay, we can ask for comments, especially the members who are on the Zoom. So Mayor South Dublin County Council and anyone who wants to say anything. So this is the time. We'll take some comments. Can we unmute? Can I ask?
Yeah, if anyone wants to unmute themselves, they should be free to now.
Okay, so you can unmute yourself, and if you want to say anything, we can end the live stream. This is the discussion between us, or is it live stream is still going on, or?
Yeah, it's still going on at the moment.
That's fine. Okay, so this is the opportunity now to for our guests, if anyone want to say anything. Mahmood?
I think, yeah, thanks to everyone. It sounds like I think we have quite a few people on the Zoom. You're right, but I think based on time and probably impromptu for everyone to say something from themselves, maybe we'll end it at this time.
Okay, thank you very much.